Hello everyone, welcome. It's a beautiful day here in Colorado. I'm Heidi Ganahl and I'm here today as a Colorado citizen, a candidate for governor in 22 obviously, and founder and president of the Rocky Mountain Voice, a news organization here in Colorado. And I'm very concerned that Colorado's elections are not quite the gold standard we proclaim, but a bit of fool's gold. Verifying the integrity of election systems is not the exclusive role of law enforcement, but the right and duty of the citizens and the delegated responsibility of our legislature and our election officials. It's important that the citizens of Colorado hear what I've learned. In the 22 election, Kurt Heffman, who ran for House District 43, and it was a current representative in Highlands Ranch, lost despite it being a Republican plus 10 district in Douglas County. Kurt ran a good race, and the final numbers just simply didn't make sense, as every Republican around him won by a pretty good margin. My numbers in the governor's race in Douglas County, where I live and work, seemed off as well, and were very different than the other Republicans that were running. So we ended up asking for a recount in Douglas County right after the election, just to gain some insight into these discrepancies. The recount started off on the wrong foot with Jenna Griswold convincing our Douglas County Republican clerk and recorder, not the same one now, but before Sherry Davis took the spot, not to allow the canvass board members to lead the recount, which is not only their right, but their statutory responsibility. The recount was conducted entirely by county election employees. Now, the canvass board members described the process after the fact as an adjudication-only recount. This process did not meet the statutory requirements for a complete recount as outlined in the Colorado election law. Observers noted that the election judges did not manually review the paper ballots. The process relied entirely on the clear vote machine count without conducting a comparison of machine and manual counts before proceeding with that machine recount as required by Colorado statutes. The canvass board members were largely uninvolved, and no legal counsel was allowed to be present to guide them. Observers pointed out that the process violated Colorado statutes, including the requirement for a complete recount, and that election officials, including the Secretary of State, induced violations of state election laws. Rules, edicts, and orders from the Secretary of State violating and undermining our Constitution and statutes are a concerning pattern of conduct. The observation area for the observers also failed to comply with regulations, further restricting their ability to monitor the process adequately. So after this unserious response to our request, we requested access to the ballots to do our own review through the Colorado Open Records Act, or CORA as you well know it. And the clerk's office came back with a $212,000 invoice to dissuade us, a common practice in Colorado. So we hired an experienced election attorney and negotiated with the county for many months. And we invested quite a bit financially, and were able to finally examine the paper ballots from the 22 election in Douglas County in April of this year. We brought our own scanning equipment, and under the county's close supervision, scanned over 85,000 of the 193,000 paper ballots for later examination of ballot images. We then worked with various election experts to analyze various aspects of the 22 Colorado election with a focus on Douglas County. Almost 2 years later, what we found is troubling. We'll continue with future public comment as needed. We're still in the analysis process on other aspects, but there's some things I want you to hear about today. And I do want to thank the Douglas County Clerk Sherry Davis and her staff for being very forthcoming, professional, and accommodating in working with us on our requests and questions. So here we go. The first thing that we gleaned from this process, after much speculation about the election management systems and their ability to connect to the internet, and being told by elected officials this was absolutely not happening, we can confirm through purchase order records and written confirmation from the Douglas County Clerk's Office that there are indeed wireless networking cards installed in their voting system computers that could be used to expose the voting system to unauthorized remote access. The Secretary of State's and county solution to eliminate the risk of those wireless networking cards, which really have no legal purpose in a voting system in Colorado, but were deliberately included in the voting system configuration by the vendor and certified by the Secretary of State, is to simply administratively disable communications using the configuration interface in the operating system. So basically just turn it off. This does not address the vulnerabilities for exploitation and hacker manipulation that can bypass the operating system, including any supply chain compromise installed before our election officials received the equipment. Our military understands that administrative disablement is no protection against sophisticated threats, and they require removal or physically disabling any wireless networking device in a computer handling sensitive information or critical missions. We have to ask ourselves now whether our public officials responsible for the security and integrity of our voting systems are intentionally allowing these vulnerabilities or merely not competent to protect against them. What's most disturbing about this discovery are the lies told by our public officials. First one, Jenna Griswold, December 15th, 2020. Quote, "The voting system is secured from tampering through multiple safeguards. Voting systems are never connected to and cannot be accessed through the internet because Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capability are stripped from the unit before use, and all other connective technology is disabled by the trusted build." That was in the Legislative Audit Committee hearing on election integrity, December 15th, 2020. In the news of September, just this year, Sarah McAfee, a spokesperson for the Jefferson County Clerk's Office, who has no cybersecurity expertise or experience that we know of, said, quote, "No vote counting machines in Colorado are connected to the internet. In larger counties that have multiple vote counting machines, these machines may be networked together, but it is a closed network, not accessible from outside the room the equipment is housed in." She cited a Colorado election rule number 20. Sarah continued, "I believe it's accurate to say that every county has at least one, but probably not more than two, internet-connected computers that are used to upload election results. But these computers are never connected to the counting machines or the closed network the counting machines may be a part of. They do upload the results file from the counting machines through an internet connection to the Secretary of State's office." Now let me take a break here. I have one more quote. "But there are other secure methods to transmit election results to the Secretary of State's office without connecting any election management system to the internet. Other counties, such as Boulder, use secure and sterilized USB drives to transfer election results to other computers where they can validate and upload the results to the state." So here's another one, and this emphasizes that this is a bipartisan problem. Wayne Williams, in October 19th of 2016, told Peter Stressino with the Pueblo Chieftain, quote, "To start with, none of our tabulation software and none of our tabulation machines are connected to the internet, so they cannot be hacked from the outside." And finally, one more. On June 3rd of this year, 2024, Bobby Gross, Mesa County Clerk and Recorder, who I don't believe has cybersecurity expertise or experience, said, quote, "Mesa County's ballot processing equipment is not connected to the internet in any way, but the voter registration database election staff need access, which is connected to the internet." And then finally, from the El Paso County Security and Safeguards section of the El Paso County Clerk's website, quote, "The voting equipment provided by the state qualified vendor Dominion assists our county in continuing to provide greater security, transparency, and reporting accuracy. The equipment is not connected to the internet, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth." So our public officials are either very naive or they're not being truthful with us. Regardless, any wireless remote access hardware software should be removed from all voting equipment immediately to restore some measure of justified trust and confidence in our upcoming election. And given that none of the wireless hardware or software in Colorado's voting systems was tested by the voting system testing labs, the Colorado General Assembly should demand that the Secretary of State either confirm removal of the wireless remote access hardware software or should decertify the voting systems which incorporate it. Boards of county commissioners must consider their statutory responsibility to adopt for use only those voting systems which fulfill the requirements of the Colorado revised statutes, which do not allow the connection of voting systems to any external device or network, and which therefore should never have had the capability to wirelessly connect to external devices or networks. There is a reason bank vaults don't have back doors. If someone installs a back door in your bank vault, you need to start questioning that person's motives and integrity. That wraps up the first concern. On to the next one. Our concern is that there is no chain of custody that we or the county clerk that we worked with could identify between county clerk offices and the United States Postal Service for thousands of undeliverable ballots. The Colorado Open Records Act allows citizens to examine public records of payments via invoices, as well as a long list of election records for every election. Undeliverable ballots are a vital election record in every election. States with mail-in voting systems like Colorado mail out millions of ballots at the start of an election. It is extremely important that all undeliverable ballots are tracked with a chain of custody demonstrating the quantity that the USPS collected matches the quantity the counties record as undeliverable. Counties typically produce the mail ballot reconciliation report that record every undeliverable ballot processed by the county during the election. The USPS charges each county a return fee for each undeliverable ballot. Analysis of those USPS invoices can determine the quantity of undeliverable ballots that the USPS charged to each county. To validate the analysis, the organization Colorado Institute for Fair Elections met with 4 counties to review the findings. And we learned that the counties do not normally compare the USPS invoices against return undeliverable ballots. Should be common sense. Core information collected from the 2022 general election indicates that of 11 of Colorado's largest counties, only 2 confirmed records of undeliverable ballots closely matching quantities on USPS invoices billed to their respective county. After more than 25 core requests among 11 counties, Bob Cooper, who's here with us today with Colorado Institute for Fair Elections, learned the following about the 2022 general election. In 9 counties, the invoice records are significantly different than the official undeliverable count. In the 11 counties, over 18,000 undeliverable ballots have no matching USPS invoice record. In 3 counties, over 12,000 undeliverable ballots were invoiced, but the county has no record of receiving them. 3,300 in Douglas County alone are unaccounted for. What happened to the thousands of USPS designated undeliverable ballots that are missing? And what is the full total number of government mailed ballots which are not reaching the purported voters for each ballot and which are unaccounted for? This is troubling and we need answers and we don't have them yet. That wraps up number 2. On to the last one. Based on what we have discovered in our analysis over the last 2 years, we are very concerned that Dropboxes are ripe for foul play with inadequate monitoring. Poor quality video cameras are being used at ballot drop boxes that are often aimed in a way that doesn't allow for capturing who is dropping off a ballot or ballots or how many. They are useless to confirm excessive ballot harvesting, which is any quantity greater than 10 ballots per registered voter, or not meeting minimal standards of Rule 7. Requests to upgrade these cameras in counties have often been ignored or denied, stating that the current cameras are adequate, but they are not. Our public officials who have asserted that ballot drop boxes are secure because they have video monitoring have not admitted that neither the Secretary of State nor the respective counties nor the Attorney General or district attorneys make any effort to review the 200,000 plus hours of ballot Dropbox video per election. In other words, this safeguard is no safeguard at all. It's a seat belt that has been installed improperly and it isn't being used at all. If our election officials are going to assert that the Dropbox video is a safeguard, then our county commissioners and legislature should require that all Dropbox video is reviewed every election to ensure no violations of law or citizens' rights have taken place. Instead, citizens have been trying to overcome this dereliction of duty by our public officials, and getting copy of the video after an election has taken place. This is very expensive, it's cumbersome, and it's frequently delayed until long after the elections are done. Therefore, it isn't a good deterrent to bad actors in the election. Our officials have been patting us on the head, saying everything is fine when everything is not fine, and how would they even know if they haven't reviewed any of it? So this leads to an all-important question about what will we do to help us feel more secure in the upcoming election, the November 5th election. Well, given the dereliction of duty and negligence by many of our public officials, Dropboxes must be monitored by Colorado citizens. We plan to launch an extensive Dropbox watch initiative across the state immediately. As you're aware, the vast majority of ballot drop boxes are in public areas, readily accessible and observable to members of the public. For example, drop boxes are frequently located adjacent to and sometimes on sidewalks, public roads, and other areas open to the public. As written by the Secretary of State and tolerated by the Attorney General, whose unfulfilled responsibility was to ensure the Secretary of State's administrative rules act only within the bounds of her authority, the rules governing watchers seemingly apply to any member of the public who wished to observe activities at drop boxes. Thus, the rules, as we understood them before 2 hours ago, would have prohibited a member of the public from observing drop boxes or observing activities at drop boxes unless that person received permission from a candidate, political party, or committee, unless they underwent training, unless they took an oath, unless they submitted in advance to a county official the locations, dates, and times where the watcher would be located, and that they wore a badge identifying the person as a watcher. In all cases, the rules seemingly prohibited members of the public from taking photographs or making audio or video recordings of drop boxes or any activities taking place at or near drop boxes. If applied to members of the public, these rules were plainly unconstitutional, and courts have long held that the First Amendment protects an individual's right to observe, photograph, and record activities that take place in the public. Because the First Amendment protects the public's ability to observe, photograph, and record public activities, we sent a letter to the Secretary of State yesterday morning through our attorney to question their vague rules, which implied that they included the public. We asked that they confirm that the above rules, or the rules that I'm happy to reference to you, do not apply to members of the public who wish to observe, photograph, or record activities that take place at or around drop boxes located within public areas or readily in public view. Just 2 hours ago, the Secretary of State responded to us. They've had it since yesterday morning, and we succeeded in getting confirmation that this is the case, that the rules will not apply to the public. This is a huge win for the citizens of Colorado. We are always proud to defend the public's First Amendment rights and hold our Secretary of State accountable for the constitutional rights our public holds. And when I say we, there's a big group of very concerned citizens who are part of this effort. It's not just me. So I speak for all of you. So we plan on acting on this by launching a statewide effort to make sure our drop boxes are monitored, according to the laws, of course, Jenna, and the Constitution. Wait just a second. We have hundreds of citizens who have expressed an interest in doing so. Be aware, though, if you're interested in doing this, based on our discussions with the Secretary of State's office, they are looking closely at this as a threat with potential accusations of voter intimidation or even loitering, believe it or not. And our goal in addressing this and helping to launch this Dropbox Watch effort is to assure open and transparent elections here in Colorado and to restore our trust in our vote in just a few weeks to truly get to that gold standard that we talk so much about and not the fool's gold that we may have. If the Colorado AG, Attorney General, and the Secretary of State attempt to make this difficult for citizens, we will do all we can to protect and preserve our citizens' rights, including legal action. On that note, we've set up a Give, Send, Go account that you can donate to that will be held in escrow for legal action. If we don't need it, we'll return your donations, but we want to be prepared to defend Colorado citizens aggressively and their constitutional rights. Go to Give, Send, Go, and it's /Colorado Votes. And we'll send out that link and post it. So, we have the volunteers and infrastructure to organize and deploy this effort. We have the partnership of Mike Davis and the Article 3 Foundation and our own legal counsel, Scott Gessler, a previous Colorado Secretary of State, who are both ready to take action if we need it. In conclusion, so many people across Colorado since the governor's race and the last couple of elections have said, please do something. Do something to protect our vote, to help us preserve Colorado. Well, these are the somethings, as I wrap up, that I believe will make a difference in the election in just under 40 days, I believe, at this point. First, we must demand our election officials remove all remote access capabilities, both hardware and software, from our voting equipment immediately. Administrative actions or just turning it off are not enough. Next, we must advise canvassing board members of their immense responsibility and authority to review any and all records, including registration, voting history, signature records, signature verification, and voting machine audit trails like cast vote records and system logs before they swear under oath that they believe election results to be true and accurate. It's very important. Next, we must insist that our postmasters and county clerks carefully account for undeliverable ballots and expect an audit on those reports, as well as all informed visibility, mail tracking, and reporting records for ballots. We also must monitor actions by the Secretary of State and Attorney General which threaten and attempt to suppress the exercise of First Amendment rights by our citizens to monitor ballot drop boxes, an action which our government should already be undertaking and without which it is a derelict in its duty to ensure the purity of our elections. So we'll take it on. And finally, if our election officials are going to assert that the Dropbox video is a safeguard, then our county commissioners and legislature should require that all Dropbox video is reviewed every election to ensure no violations of law or citizens' rights have taken place. Thank you for your time and attention today. It's been a grueling 2 years to get to this point, but I'm proud of the work all of us have done, and we believe we have uncovered critical information that could help make our elections more trustworthy and a real gold standard. And there's more to come. As our analysis continues to evolve, we will be here reporting on more findings from our analysis of the 22 election results, along with potential solutions, always. God bless Colorado, and God bless America.
Thank you, Heidi.
Happy to take a couple questions if there are any.